¿Qué tal, amigos? Pues empieza el Mundial. Ya estamos con las entrevistas post partido, aquí con los amigos de Riot. Y el primer día no podía faltar a gente de MDK. Tenemos a Zeph, el assistant coach del equipo. Zeph, thank you very much for, first of all, for being here with us, for your time, and especially, first day, first game, the first game of 2024 Worlds. I don't know if it was like shaky emotions between the guys to... I don't know if it was that kind of mixed feeling of we are the ones who are opening the whole tournament. Was it that?
Surely there was a bit of stress. I mean, when you play the first game at Worlds, it's always a different moment. But I think they handled the pressure pretty well.
Perfect. First of all, 2-0 against the Vikings. I don't know if it was like that kind of... Well, these guys should be not at our step, but these guys, we still don't know, or we are already to know what they are strong about or weak about. How was the preparation on this kind of series?
I mean, obviously, it's a world game, right? We watched all the games of the opponents, like the recent games. We did conclusion about what we should ban and all of this. We were pretty confident going into the game, obviously, but you cannot underestimate anyone when you go to a tournament like this. But we were prepared since the bootcamp in Madrid, so it didn't feel like any risk coming into today.
Especially talking about the draft, you played on both games kind of a similar composition. What was behind the preparation? Was that kind of drafts a meaning of, okay, we can figure it out, this is strong on our meta, or you feel that this is kind of fits strong on what you are good at?
It's a bit of both. I mean, obviously after the summer final, the season final against G2, we had to make some adaptation, right? And I think this bootcamp, we did a lot of work on this, and in general, I'm really happy that we only had to show one draft. They made it easy for us to not have to show different picks, which is going to be a good advantage for the rest of the tournament.
Especially talking on the first map, you kind of started both games, I would say, in the same way, but first map went into a little bit of a struggle. What kind of happened? Because this is something that we are unluckily a bit used about MDK to drop a little bit those games on the mid game. Was, especially talking on the bootcamp, some kind of specific preparation for those kind of situations?
I mean, the first game is always different. I think in terms of the swap, we ended it pretty well. Obviously, the second game was extraordinary. Alvaro killing the Jarvan in the jungle and all of this. This usually doesn't happen, but he found a great opportunity. But to go back to the first game, I think we got surprised because we were not synced on the support jungle, and they caught us off guard in the early mid game. But apart from that, the player bounced back into the game, and they didn't fail to identify what went wrong, and they could adapt it into the next fight. So usually it went pretty well.
Now you mentioned about Alvaro performance. You driving me straight to the next question, because today Alvaro remind a little bit us of this kind of Alvaro we saw at the beginning of the year on the winter split especially. Is Alvaro, especially on this kind of meta, one of those guys that we have to keep an eye on because he should be one of those driving forces of the team?
I mean, I think today in the team, everyone played very well. I think everyone at the moment, obviously it looked, Alvaro did a lot of good engages and he was really feeling it today. And that made the game easier for us. But overall, as a team, I think everyone played at a good level. Obviously the standard could be better, but I think it was pretty good by everyone.
Especially talking now that you have played both maps on a pretty similar draft, would you say that this kind of the meta you put on the paper today is the kind of meta you think is about to be played widely on the world's meta, or do you think it's a little bit more about to be discovered for the rest of the teams?
I think this might be played by other teams, like G2 or other team in general. I say G2 because it's the meta of the swaps, right? That's something they brought up at MSI back then. But I think this draft specifically could be played by other team, but I wouldn't be surprised if there would be other champion. For me, I'm just really happy we didn't have to show too much. We got to play twice the same draft and it went well, so that's a good news.
Especially on now you mentioned about the draft and the meta, would you say that this kind of on the blue side draft, on this kind of drafts where poke and skirmishes and playing fast is kind of more suitable for you than team fights, 5v5 and long team fights?
I mean, we want to do team fights. That's why we have the Jinx and the Cassante, right? I think in this specific draft is to really facilitate the swap so you don't have to go through the laning phase. And in the end, we want to play the 5v5. And yes, the first game, we actually gave them some opportunity to not go for fight. We splitted in fight and stuff like this. But as you could see, the second game, we were more our style. We played more as 5. We were giving them less opportunities.
You also mentioned about the bootcamp in Madrid. You have been twice in Madrid on the Movistar Riders facilities to prepare. What was the focus, especially on that bootcamp, taking into account that is a new meta? There is no background information, no games played on the new meta. What kind of preparation was done on that bootcamp, especially on this new meta, which is about to be discovered already?
So what we worked on the bootcamp was we have 3 patches, right, since the LEC season final. So we had to adapt. We had to learn the patches. So that was the first part. The second part is to practice the swap. So we did a lot of draft just to make the swap suitable for us and to force the swaps. So that was the second part. And now the third part is of the bootcamp was to go back to normal playing, because we did a lot of swap. And it was a good idea for us to go back to not swapping so we could play both styles.
Now you have been both times on the bootcamp in Madrid. What do you think has Madrid and Riders environment that gives that kind of different environment around the team and around the guys?
I mean, first thing that comes to mind is weather, people, and the food in general. I think the people at Movistar are super friendly and very available, which means that if you're in need of anything, you basically have it on the seconds. You don't have to ask for anything. Everything goes really fast. So they're doing a very good job on that. But in general, I think it's also a new environment. I think it's good to have some change to shake things up a bit.
Especially now you mentioned those LEC finals against you. What do you think is the biggest difference between that MDK who lost against G2 that from into this MDK who have started this first game on the world, especially from the mental position?
Mental position, I think now we're way more prepared. Well, I will say the mental to the games. I think when we play against G2, we got really surprised by the swap and we got confused. We didn't know how to react to it, and it really put us mentally behind, right? Because even though in itself the swap didn't do much, it put us in a situation where we're not comfortable, right? But now because of the bootcamp, I think we're much more prepared for these situations. And in that sense, we are a more complete team.
And last but not least question, next opponent is still to be is still to be known, but I would say that the favorite one should be PSG. How do you see them against you, or how do you see yourself against them? Because of course they would be, I would think, a much tougher opponent than today.
I mean, we're gonna see what they bring today for the meta. So obviously there's gonna be some adaptation, but to be fair, it should be the strongest challenge of the play-ins, from what I understand. Obviously, we didn't play them scrims because we're going to face them, most likely. So I think it's going to be a most interesting match of the tournament. For the play-in, obviously.
And anything to finish this up? Anything you would like to say to those MDK fans who will be watching this interview?
So thank you for the messages. Obviously, when I get a lot of messages in Spanish in Twitter or Instagram, I make Alvaro translate, so just so you know, Alvaro reads all the messages.
Good.
So thanks to Alvaro as well. And keep sending us some love. Thank you, everyone.
For sure. Zeph, thank you very much for your time, for your kindness. Congrats again for the win, and see you on the next round.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.